This is everything that I learned over the past year about prompting LLMs and how to get the best possible business outputs from them. So whether you're using ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Perplexity, or whatever other LLM is out there, this is just a very detailed guide on how to structure your prompts and communicate with AI effectively in order to get the exact output that it is that you want. Alright, the first thing that most people get wrong is that you want to assign some sort of role and some sort of character to the LLM. So what you don't want to do is just ask AI for a general content strategy. Instead, you want to say you are an expert in content strategy, working with multiple businesses or having scaled businesses past 8 figures, which is a reputable mark, which means that the AI already has a pre-frame as to what it specializes in and what the core understanding should be. So for copywriting, for example, some good examples would be David Ogilvy, who has most famously written pieces for Rolls-Royce and Shell, for newspapers back when they were doing newspaper ads. Or for example, telling it that you are a software engineer with 15 years of experience, or a financial tax advisor who has helped many people optimize their tax strategy. Alright, next we have context profiles. Essentially, this is a JSON formatted version of an item sheet or a sort of profile on your target audience. And in this case, we're using it to give business context to the AI, which means that in our case, what product or service are you working with? What is your unique selling point? What is the angle that you're approaching your target audience with? And also just things on a psychological level. What are their desires? What are their pain points? What challenges do they face on a daily basis? And for example, here we have your age range, your gender, income range, all those kind of things can be very structured out into a JSON string. And then you can tell AI to write something using this. And by doing that, you'll get a much, much better output than just telling it to write a piece of text, for example. So we're not giving any examples, but we're giving an extremely detailed context to it. The example is actually in this third method, which is precision mapping. I made a video on this, so it should be up on the channel, but essentially, we all know that LLMs are basically working off of patterns, and essentially it's just trying to guess what the next step in the pattern will be. And so logically, if you think about it, the more examples that you give it, the more examples you provide it of good copy or, for example, or good code, the more it can replicate that style and that exact quality. There's 2 ways to do this. One is called one-shot prompting and the other one is called few-shot prompting. One-shot is you give it one example, and few-shot is obviously you give it 2 or more examples of what it is that you want. So for example, the way you would do this is you would find 2 to 3 examples of scripts that worked in the past, or I don't know, of UIs that you liked on a software, and you would say, hey, I have attached some examples below, or I've attached them in a PDF knowledge base that is separate to the prompt, and just ask AI to analyze these patterns before it can actually produce any sort of output. And that way it just works with a lot more precision. So the example that I used in my last video is, here are 10 examples of short-form scripts that have had a plus 5% or above CTR or click-through rate. Analyze what makes them effective, and then write me 10 more. So this way, you're approaching it like a guaranteed pattern in the sequence. But I go more into detail in the previous video, so feel free to watch that one. Next, we want to prioritize inputs. What does this actually mean? For us, this is the crucial step to try to transform general topics into a more precise outcome. And the way it's being done is you want to go from a broad topic that you want an output for, then defining the angle, and then going up to giving it context details. So as we said with the JSON, this is done using code. And then you arrive at the precise outcome. And there's different layers to this. So for example, the way you would define a scope would be to just say include as many relevant features and interactions as possible. For depth, you just want to refer to a more advanced level of thinking. Completeness would be give me a fully functional demo with 100% features mapped out. And then a quality input would be make this of professional grade or industry ready grade. So again, what you don't want to do is just say create me an CRM interface. The best way to do this is say a complete working analytical CRM, including all relevant interactions, UI elements, animations, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, you'd probably go into more detail using the other techniques before, but yeah, this is just a general guideline. Okay, next is what's known as suppression metrics or constraints. These are any sort of limitations that you don't want the AI to respond with. So one way to do this is to just limit the format that it writes in. You just say use numeric bullet points with clear headers, etc. You can also limit the range, so use exactly 150 words. The way you set tonality is just by saying be specific, use direct phrasing, and avoid emojis or filler words or anything of the sort. And here you can also add information about the frame of mind that your audience is in. So if you're targeting, let's say, business owners, in this case you want to explicitly tell the AI to assume a high perception despite blunt tone and direct responses. And these sort of guardrails are extremely important when it comes to writing prompts, not only for scripts or any text-based copy, but also agentic prompts. This is also one of the challenges that I face, where especially with conversational agents, they go on and on forever and they stray away from the thread of the conversation itself. And you sort of want to, using these guardrails, you want to bring it back to the original point. You can also say things to avoid at all costs. So for example, we want to disable engagement responses, tone matching or sentiment matching, or a continuation bias, which is basically the tendency to go with the first idea that you have. AI does this a lot as well. You will want to avoid this. And it just helps to explicitly say, okay, I want you to come up with new ideas and not things that have already been used or previously. So again, example would be, instead of saying write a community post, just say write a post about transforming businesses with no more than 100 words. Use a professional but engaging tone, and also specifying formats, so problem, my solution, next steps, etc. And focus on giving practical, actionable steps to inform members that value return on investment over technical details. Alright, next is to use AI to improve itself. This is known as iterative scoring. Basically, the way it works is that we're going to be using the output that it provides as a first touch point to then feed back into as an input. So the way you would do this is you get an initial output, then you say make this more specific or actionable to solve my problem. You get another output, and then you have that output scored on a range of 1 to 10 or 0 to 100%, and how good it is for your outcome or the desired outcome that you want. And then it says, oh, okay, I would rate this a 8.5 out of 10 for this and this reason. And then you use that and then say, make changes in accordance to the rules that we provided. And you do this to refine the prompt until you are satisfied with the outcome. So for example, you could use phrases like make this more specific and actionable, provide 3 alternative approaches, or combine the best elements from all the above. Another one that I like is what would said industry expert add to this, or what objections would my target audience have towards this. So these are all just things to add to make your prompt a lot better. Cross-model checking is similar, but this time we're actually feeding it into different LLMs. So each LLM I noticed obviously has its strengths and weaknesses. For example, ChatGPT is good for creative tasks or brainstorming. Claude is good for writing long copywriting or performing analysis on copy and writing copy in general. And then Gemini would be good for research, if you're doing any kind of scientific research, or if you have to ground your outputs into existing findings online. And especially with like papers and stuff, this is very useful. So each LLM has its own strengths, and you want to leverage this ecosystem that you have. You want to take output from, let's say, ChatGPT, and then put it into Claude and see what it says, or use that to feed it into another LLM and then see what it says based on its perspective, which means that you're only applying the best results to then bring back to your system. Alright, last one is to use correct formatting and using XML delimiters. This is just a fancy way of saying use correct formatting in order to denote the sections of your prompt, especially when you're writing longer, like 2 to 3 page prompts for lead generation agents or lead qualifying agents. This can just organize it for the AI in order to know, okay, this is where one section begins, this is where the other one ends. So you can use things like dashes, forward slashes, and some examples you can see here on screen are 3 hashes with all caps subtitle for that section of the prompt. So yeah, that's it. This is a very generalized prompt template that I made. This is what I use for most of my builds, whether that be internal agents, outbound lead agents, or just using AI in general to help me complete system builds on time. This is a very useful prompt. You can screenshot this. Essentially, again, we have role, we have context. Give the AI as much context as we can about our problem, our goals, our target audience. Then give it step-by-step instructions. Attach some kind of example so it knows and has a point of reference to work back from. And then the format that we want to prioritize and the tonality that we want to prioritize, and then also what we want to suppress, so we don't want to have. This skill is probably one of the most important skills that I've learned in the past 6 to 12 months. I cannot stress this enough. It is very crucial that you learn this skill if you are running any sort of business, or also if you're just a participant in the space. All right, I hope you learned something. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me and I'll be happy to answer them. And thank you for your time.